Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Nighter round, I believe it's 3 for the month of November. I am Michael Perry, and I am pleased to be joined by National Master OK. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention real quick. TCCL tomorrow is back being once a month, and I believe it's being held at the same location as it was last year. So just so that's on your radar, make sure you don't forget about the once a month TCCL match tomorrow night. And then this weekend at the castle, we have the Turkey Swiss tournament in honor of Thanksgiving, of course. It's 4 rounds of game 45 plus 10. So make sure to check that out. And the TD for that one is Dane Zagar. And that's it for announcements, and I'll send it over to OK.
All right. So I guess we'll start in board order, and I guess I'll make a mini announcement of sorts. So we'll start with Noah versus Jordan, which, okay, obviously Jordan's coming in as a favorite, but Jordan's also coming in as the current reigning Minnesota class champion. He won the event last weekend in Rochester. It was a small crowd, but a strong crowd, and I think he finished pretty close to maybe like 3.5 out of 4. So not, and by so doing, he's taken one of the 6 spots in the Minnesota Closed Championship playoff. So congratulations to Jordan. All right, let's see what's going on. Oh, well, this is probably an opening that would bring tears to the eyes of certain purists. You have an E4, A6 sighting once more. So the St. George, which seems to be Jordan's main defense against most stuff these days, and he plays it pretty well. And so far, so normal as these positions get to be. And it's interesting how, from what seemed like an inauspicious start, Black has almost completed its development, has good influence in the center, and there's no reason to think he's worse in this position, in my opinion, anyway. But no one's playing well as in addition, so it's not as if there's anything wrong. Now, in this position, it seems like there might be a tactic. Oh, wow. And yes, there is. Which knight takes c3, bang, based on this tactic. So it crystallizes the position in a way that favors Black, in that he's going to be able to get his play on the queen side going, and is based on this guy being inadequately defended. So if we go back to look at the anatomy of this tactic, basically the knight captures on c3, exposing this dynamic, but also displacing this pawn if he captures back, which he does. And by so doing, now this guy's hanging. So he plays d5, and now both this guy and this guy are hanging. And so he changes the pawn structure in a way that gives him a bit more influence in the center. Because materially we're even, and I wonder if it would have made sense for Noah to try something like this, but then the problem is this can happen, and after that black only has to deal with one check, and actually, maybe this is not bad. Let's see. So if knight takes, if knight takes pawn,
Yeah, this looks completely fine too. And I actually
yeah,
prefer this because when you're playing a higher rated opponent, especially by a couple hundred points, you want the position to be as um what's the word, symmetrical as possible. Um, so I like this a bit more than the position we got in the game.
yeah. This is probably a major improvement because if black plays here, you retreat to maybe c2, and white's not doing badly here.
I
In
mean, yeah, he has a
fact,
better bishop and more space, so I think I would take white for sure.
yeah. So knight takes so yeah. I think after this, and if he tries for this as an intermezzo, then knight d6, and not only does black lose castling rights either here or there, he's also down a pawn.
Hmm.
So yes, it's as if Noah might have missed a very great chance with that.
Yeah.
But okay, well, let's see how the game continues. So d5, and then Noah plays the bishop takes d5, pawn takes. So the material even, but Jordan had at least an addition lasting at least one move because of the knight still hanging on a3. But he also has to get his king out of the center quickly. So then here, and then knight there. And h3, which seems unnecessary.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I want to play like h4 and knight g5 and e6. Because I
Yes,
mean, the only difference in pawn structure is white has an e pawn for black's b pawn, and
exactly.
currently their black's b pawn is blockaded, but our pawn, I'd really like to push it, but we can't quite yet. But if we can get in h4 and knight g5, maybe we could then.
Yeah. And the threat of h4 knight g5 might induce black to weaken their position. And if they do, then that means that most of the play can be centered on the king side, which would favor white since the bishop on b7 is probably not going to be able to help out. And these guys are already ready to sweep into the king side. So it would seem like h4 might be yeah, I like h4 here. Seems more to the point. So okay, h3, rook there, knight there. So I think I get his idea. He's going to play f4, f5 maybe. Um, and it seems like it's not a bad idea, but question is it going to be fast enough? Because black is going to try to develop counterplay on the queen side, which at the moment it doesn't seem as if he should be too optimistic about his chances there, but rook e3. Okay. Point of personal privilege. I would have preferred queen d2 here. Rook e3 might be happening soon, but the idea is we're keeping the queen off g5, and we're going to play f4, f5, and we can decide where we want to put the rook later, because we might want to put the rook back on the f file, depending on how things go. But also keep the rook behind the pawns. So well, let's see. Okay, so here, there, which seems like he might have just dropped material.
Mm-hmm.
And that is indeed the case. Bang. Dropping a pawn. So this is another interesting tactical idea. And
Actually decided to sack the piece and pawn for the rook.
yes. So the idea is sacking the exchange for a pawn, but the more realistic way of looking at it, and this is, definitely the play of a strong master. So it's not as if the exchange for the pawn is the main thing. So you have 1, 2, 3 for 6, 1, 2, 3 for 5. It's the fact that the local imbalance on the queen side is this versus this guy. And maybe you can get this guy in action, but these guys are so strong, these two guys, that it'll be difficult for white to defend. And so you have a situation where the nominal difference between knight plus pawn versus rook doesn't apply here. White is strategically winning here, I feel. And f5, well, if you can get, I suppose, if you could get e6 and e7 going, then f5 might be in time. But black should be able to parry that. And so the question comes, would it have been better to try and bring his knight over to help defend against the connected passed pawns? And so Jordan uses some tactics to help keep everything going. His idea is he's protecting against the promotion on e8, and with the knight and connected passed pawns against the rook, while this guy is offside, he's still winning. Noah goes in for the promotion and tries to defend against the black pawn's promotion from behind, but he's just too slow. And here Noah gave up. So yeah, this was an interesting fight. I think Noah could have done better with knight takes b5 earlier in the game. But then again, it's not easy. You're playing against a strong player, and it's too easy to fall victim to respecting him too much. And there's some psychology involved. There's this example from world champion Emmanuel Lasker. He's playing against a really strong opponent, and the opponent spends 30 minutes, around 30 minutes, think about this move, and comes up with this piece sacrifice. So, and while his opponent is thinking, Lasker 2 is looking at a position, and and the guy plays the piece sacrifice. Lasker almost immediately responds, ignoring the piece sacrifice. And after the game, people were saying, "Oh well, you could have taken that piece. Why did you take the piece?" And all this, and Lasker was like, "Yeah, but a master spends 30 minutes thinking about a piece sacrifice. I would do well not to take the piece sacrifice." What he didn't say, which was what was more important, was that those 30 extra minutes was what he used to kill his opponent. Because he had a decent position without taking the piece sacrifice. Well, if he had, his opponent had spent all that time looking at all those lines. Now he has to consider what's going to happen without the acceptance.
Yeah.
So it was a nice bit of psychology there by Lasker. Anyway, well, let's see what's going on. Oh, Mitch won. Good. Let's see. Well, okay, sorry, Stephen, but Mitch has been having a tough time, so I guess Stephen had to pick a price here. Let's see what happens. So E4, D5, Team Scandi unite, and now Queen D6. So this is not the most common in Minnesota that I know. I think Queen A5 and Queen E8 seem to be the more common approaches in Minnesota. Even Lujatunge used to play the Portuguese this business. Which can be really, really tricky. Anyway, back to the game.
I'm not familiar with this player, Steven Junton, however you say his last name, but I looked him up.
I think it's pronounced Juntanen.
1650. Juntanen? Okay, that's what I thought, but I'm never sure.
Yes.
It looks like he beat at 1656, 2018.
Yeah, I don't. I suspect I'd recognize him by face. I've seen his name in Thursday Night Across tables before. But I can't connect the face to the name right now. So it isn't, and I don't know the theory of this particular position, but I do know that oftentimes in the Scandinavian, you're not shying away from capturing on F3. Because if they're going to spend a tempo asking you to take the knight, it's not a bad idea to take the knight. Partly because eventually Black is working towards a setup with pawns on C6 and E6, and not having the bishop in that situation isn't bad for Black, as long as the bishop is, as long as the pawns are going to be on E6, C6. And so C6 here, and then White decides how they're going to respond. Of course, it's a bit different for this queen on D6, because with the queen on either A5 or D8, it opens the possibility after E6 of maybe getting this bishop out to B4 in some lines. But okay, that's going a bit afar. Let's go back to the game. So bishop H5, G4, and then bishop G6. And now bishop E3, and so C6, queen D2, E6. Black is setting up his pawn structure and preparing to finish his development. And now queen C7. So the queen often ends up with C7 as its home base in these Scandi positions. And I remember when I used to play it, when it finally dawned on me how the whole idea of d5 on move 2, and queen d5 on the next move. The whole purpose of this was to find out how to get the queen from here to here eventually. Of course, I'm overstating it, but basically, in a lot of lines, the queen will take this path, this goes here, and this goes here, or the queen will go here, and then this goes here, and then the queen often falls back to c7. Okay, there's actual concrete reasons why that'll happen, but that tended to be a common path. And so in this game, we see Mitch making the journey through d6 and then c7, which black has to be very careful, because if white can effectively get d5'd, even as a pawn sacrifice, there can be a lot of suffering in the black camp.
Yeah, this just looks very nice for white.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad. And I think
Oh, it looks better.
yeah, I think black carried around a bit too much, and his king is still in the center. His pieces aren't developed, and white should probably be looking to play. Excuse me. Maybe something like c4, king b1, d5 to blast things open. So he could take advantage of his bishop pair. Bishop d3 is not bad. It's a step in the direction.
Oh
No,
no, I really want to play c4 and d5. We have to open up as quick as possible before black castles.
Yeah, I know. That
We play
was what I was thinking.
Yeah. So like we play c4, which black don't play. They don't play bishop e7 or bishop d6 or knight d7. They pretty much only have those three options, or maybe knight a6, but that doesn't make much sense. And then we're just going to play d5 anyways. And
so I think he's afraid of this. I think he's afraid of this, but in this kind of position, black probably doesn't have the time to be chasing pawns. For one, by playing rook h3, black is condemning himself to either staying in the center or castling queenside. And after queen g2, for example, now, where the rook probably has to run back, I think we can play d5 almost immediately. Maybe we play rook h1 first. Rook
and there's a funny
G.
Yeah. And there's a funny line if we go back to queen d2. If we just push d5 right away, there's a funny line where
you mean here or
back on d2? Move previous. If we don't move, right here. Instead of queen g2, if we just play d5 right away, and if they try to keep the center closed with e5, let's just say they try e5, we can play take c6, knight takes c6, and bishop takes g6.
Ouch.
So black has to be really careful. So I think we can just open it up right away.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, and it's an important principle in all kinds of positions, not just the Scandinavian. In general, you have an advantage in development, and you have the bishop pair, and the opponent's king in the center. All of those advantages mean nothing if you can't use them. And the way to use them is to open up the center, open up the position, so your pieces can do what they want. That's a point for Steven, because after the way the game went, queen g2 is a bit slow. It's not an important pawn, really, at the end of the day. I mean, it can be important, but right now it's less important than opening up the position. So I think he needs to strike with c4 as soon as possible. But what's going on, it seems to me, is Steven's trying to conduct his attack using only the pieces and not adding the pawns. which in order to open up the position, you need the pawns. If he leaves the position closed like this, it makes it easier for black to defend, which is why we see black is able to escape with his king to the queen side now without suffering too much inconvenience. And that's a good maneuver by black, gumming up d5, threatening to cut the bishop pair in half, blocking the bishop on b3 from eyeing e6. And so Stephen continues with his pawn advance, but it might be a bit weakening now, because now knight takes e3, bishop takes f4 is a serious threat. So Stephen tries to address that with bishop takes knight and pawn takes. And all of a sudden, I'm liking black's position a lot.
Yeah, his advantage is completely gone.
I mean, he has a strong point to drop a rook into. His bishop is currently better than white's bishop. Both kings are kind of semi-open, but this pawn structure here versus this pawn structure on paper would seem like, okay, well, maybe white has the better of it. But you notice that white really can't attack any of black's pawns successfully, while both f4 and h3 are kind of targets right now. So yeah, I think I'd prefer black at this moment. Anyway, let's see how things go. So queen f3, rook d e8, f5. In principle, not a bad idea. g5, bishop f2, which was a small tactic there, of course, the rook takes e3, which just exchanges pieces, doesn't actually win anything in that moment, but I think Stephen didn't want to have anything to do with that. So Mitch exchanges off a pair of pieces and exchanges of rooks, which is actually good chess strategy. He's simplifying the position to bring it down to its bare elements. I've got a better bishop than my opponent, and if I take off everything else except for that element, I'll have a better endgame. So I think that's what's going through Mitch's mind. And now I have
And he
a
just
slightly
didn't
better
want to
place.
allow rook e6 too.
Yes. Yeah. And as it turns out, in this position now, after the exchange, white's queen is slightly worse than black's queen at the moment. He can do something about it, but I would, again, it's not winning for black at the moment, but with these guys, and black not having any easy targets to attack, black not giving white easy targets to attack, black is a little bit better here, I think. Oh. Okay, toss all that stuff out the window. Because, and I get the motivation. White's too doesn't seem too perturbed about going into an end game, but then loses track of the tactics. Right, he put his queen on the same line as his king, and okay, so Stephanie. It was a tough loss for Stephen, but in general, I think Mitch proved that the Scandinavian can be a dangerous weapon if you apply the right kind of patience and judicious exchanges. So let's go. What? Is this a real position?
I think so.
What's going on here? So, well, at least I know that part of the game is real, because And he does play Caro-Kann among the other zillion openings he plays. So far, so normal. Okay. So maybe you have insights into this. In these kind of positions, what would be the factors that would convince Black to castle queenside himself? Because I often see positions where White plays c4, and then Black gets their queen to c7 and castles queenside.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience in this opening because, I mean, I faced the Cairo, but I never play it myself. But just looking at the position, I definitely think there is definitely some merit to castling queenside as Black because White already has their pawn on h5. So, yeah, I think like queen c7 or queen b6 and then castling queenside for Black. I would probably rather play that than castles queenside.
Okay. All right. So I'm not miss. So maybe Eddie is just playing provocateur chess, basically waving the flag at the bull, asking Barry what's he going to do after this, because it seems as if he's castling into it. C5. Hold. No, and all of a sudden, Eddie's found a way to keep Barry occupied, and has exchanged off a dangerous attacking piece. And with his knight on f6, it's going to be hard. I mean, I guess Barry could try to aim for g4, g5 at some moment, but let's see how he addresses the f2 pawn business. He doesn't.
I was looking at knight e5, yeah.
So obviously taking f2 is going to be dangerous, opening another line against Black's king position.
I think what he wants is bishop takes f2 and either rook to f1 and then sacking on f6. I think that's what he wants.
Yes.
Initially, I was thinking bishop takes. Initially, I was thinking bishop takes f2 and knight g4, but I don't think there's enough after knight g4.
But after rook here, this is looking very dangerous for Black. I don't see. Maybe he doesn't even survive this. Bang. Oh no, because you do have to address the threat to your king. Let's see. That probably playing that might help. But then after this, okay, let's see. Maybe. Oh, let's see. Maybe instead we just play pawn there. It doesn't seem sharp enough. Let's see. So bishop takes f2. And we're saying rook here, right?
Yeah.
And so after bishop d4,
I mean, a line I was looking at was knight c4, queen c5, and then c3. But then I think Black has like rook c8.
I was actually looking at queen b5.
Queen b5. Yeah, queen b5 is fine too. I think it kind of ends up in the same line, but I think white definitely wants to play c3 just to get the bishop off the long diagonal, and then so we can sack again on either f6 or h6. But then black can kind of prevent that by exactly putting pressure on the knight. So, and this kind of starting to look more like a draw position if these pieces come off the board.
Yeah. Well, maybe even slightly. If black plays here, might be actually slightly better for. Well, there is here, 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 I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not so clear.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So maybe black can get away with bishop takes f2. But he wasn't tempted. He decided to go with this, and maybe knight d3 is a bit too. Well, I think it's safe. I don't know. I'm trying not to call it passive. I don't know that I'd call it passive per se, because it's not clear that he has anything going on the king side just yet, and it is important to keep his king safe. So, but now the storm clouds are gathering around white's king. Already there is a notion of a knight c3 somewhere.
For some reason, we don't have the clocks with us tonight, so we can't see what time the players are at.
I wonder what. Maybe let me see. Was that the case? Oh, that was not the case. So maybe this is a game that was hand input. This one
must have been, yeah.
Because
I was really curious to know how long he spent on knight d3, because maybe he didn't want to play knight c4 for the exact line we calculated.
Huh. This is looking interesting. What if white proceeds with g5 here? Is that a thing? Is that premature?
And if takes g5? Ooh, but now I think we might be able to play rook takes c3. Oh wait, no, I guess. No, we can't. Wait, we can. We might be able to get away with this.
Yeah, this is looking unfriendly. And if h6, we're probably still dealing with rook takes c3 ideas, maybe. Oh, except for that now. Now we can play. We can use our knight to help defend, I guess. No, that's not working. So rook c3 is probably working here anyway.
I mean, I think the best for black is bishop takes c3, and yeah, just pieces come off.
So, okay. So maybe that's why Barry went ahead with knight c1, try and exchange off queens, hoping that would save his king, but Eddie's neither interested nor amused, and wants to keep his queen on the board. So Barry plays rook g1, trying to get g5 in, resuscitate his attack. This is one of those positions where it seems time is of the essence. Is g5 better here than rook g3?
I feel like rook g3 is more of a defensive move. At least it struck me as more a defensive move than him trying to be aggressive.
Yeah, he's trying to protect against c3 sacks. Okay, but I mean, the thing here is, if a sack on c3 was going to work, it would have worked at this move too, right? So, but if you play g5 and bishop takes g5, there's one less piece defending c3. I suppose maybe that's
and
the idea.
The whole stack doesn't work anymore because now the queen's off the b file, so we can always play king b1.
Mm-hmm. So g3, yeah, g3 seems like it's a bit more defensive. And now the rook. So interestingly, on a functional level, the rook is now picking up the function of the queen when it was on b5. So that sacks on c3 are now making sense again.
Yeah, he played queen d1 to stop queen c2 because that was worrisome.
And so this is an important psychological moment in this game. So it looked to us like white was going to have the easier time of an opposite side castling position. He already has his pawn at h5, and it seemed as if he'd be the first one to get his pieces moving over to the king side over there. And meanwhile, Eddie has skillfully snatched initiative, and since getting the initiative, hasn't really let up. And now all of a sudden we're looking at a position, and white's attack is nowhere, while black's attack has made some progress.
Yeah, queen b1 is just no bueno.
No bueno.
Before I didn't even see the tactic until it was played, but it just seemed too passive. I mean, it looked scary for white, but I think he could have just played f4 maybe. I didn't see an immediate threat for black.
Yeah, I think f4, I mean, at this point, and this is, functionally speaking, what exactly is the queen doing better on b1 than what it was doing on c2? And I can't see an answer. I can't see a good answer to that question. So, if the queen is where it needs to be for the moment, then at least try to distract black some way with f4. Just find some way to harass him. Otherwise, it's like black gets to play offense and is given 14 downs to make his 10 yards rather than just 4 downs. It just seems that queen b1 is just too passive, and even if there wasn't a tactic, it just seems like a miserable position. But yeah, so maybe this is the idea. He has a pin. The knight might have difficulty getting out, but Eddie is in good control of his tactics. Plays queen a4, and it just turns out that that's enough to convince Barry, because there's no way, the knight will escape, and he'll have all the benefits of the position plus an extra pawn. So, and there's still threats against the white king. So yeah, that was a pretty good demonstration of some of the strengths of the Caro, but more importantly, how to focus on what's most important in these opposite castling positions. So we'll go to see what's happening with young Mr. Picus versus John Heyer. Two ends of this age spectrum, so to speak, in this one. And Jacob plays his normal English. And so we have a reverse Sicilian. And now we've gone into a reverse dragon Sicilian. And knight f6, I do not believe is good. Black is usually playing
maybe.
knight b6, bishop e6, I think are more normal moves in that position. So bishop e6 or knight b6. In this latter case, we're trying to slow down this pawn push. And it's akin to the classical system versus the dragon with colors reversed, where white plays bishop e2, bishop e3, and probably f4. Of course, the extra tempo for white does mean something, and white is often able to start their queenside play anyway, and it becomes a very sharp, strategically sharp position. But yeah, knight f6, I'm not sure about that one. Let's see what John's idea is, because John was a strong player for a while. He's not been as active recently, so his game is not as sharp. Okay, so we should go back a few moves because Jacob played pretty well. Jacob played pretty well in this phase, and I want to view the anatomy of it, so to speak. So he goes here, and throughout the sequence, he's leaving his pawn on a2 as bait, but it's not really a pawn that Black will have time to take because of the power of that and that. So first of all, John tries to escape with his bishop, and then Jacob says, "No, you got to give me one of them. I don't care which one, but you got to give me one of those bishops." And so exchanges his dark square bishop, and now he has this pressure against c6. The whole queenside setup is under really strong pressure, and it's also possible that if the bishop tried to take a2, b3 might even be possible. But I think queen a4 also liquidates to white's advantage. John plays f6 to solidify his e-pawn, but he's a bit too slow because now it doesn't even get the chance to capture on a2, and c6 is under attack. And I don't get that one. So I suppose if bishop d5, then e4 is winning the pawn. Put the move on the board here. If he tries for this, then here. But Black can say, well, you've got a weak pawn too. Okay, white will win 2 pawns for. Let's see, how does this go? So queen takes, maybe. Queen takes. This guy's hanging.
Definitely prefer this line to the game.
Yeah, definitely. Because bishop h3 isn't really addressing, unless his idea is no. There's no way the queen gets to that diagonal on time, if at all, safely. So I'm not sure what John's idea was. And so one pawn is gone, and Jacob wisely forces the exchange of queens, after which he has a material advantage and positional advantage. He's got 2 pawn islands to black's 3. Black c pawn is probably not long for this world. His rooks are not active at all. His knight is more flexible than white's bishop. This is already strategically anyway 1-0. And John agreed and resigned. So, all right, let's see what happened between Jason and Torfy. What? No pawn on f5? Torfy's changing his religion here. E6, knight, g3, bishop e4. Okay, not bad. I approve of the message sent by the bishop on b4. I play on the black side of this sometimes, so it's a way of using BOGO ideas to counter the catalog. And 92, which a number of strong grandmasters approve of. I think a different Narayanan, Grandmaster Srinath, advocates this move here, this 92 idea. And so we get an interesting position. It becomes kind of like a weird Queen's Gambit declined as black with a knight on c6. Or I suppose you could look at it as a weird Chigorin, attempt at a Chigorin. But it's still sound, and black will find time to reposition that knight on c6 if and when necessary.
I don't understand the logic behind a3.
Yeah, a3 didn't seem necessary at all. I think maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why he felt the need to play a3. Maybe he didn't want. Yeah, I don't know, because that's an expensive tempo. Or maybe he felt that, well, if he succeeded at getting the knight to come to c6, then he's already gotten a small victory. Because the knight normally doesn't want to be on c6 in front of the c pawn in these kind of positions. So that might be the idea behind playing a3 right here is, well, for one, get some certainty in the center, because now he's forcing black to give up the bishop pair, which many strong players feel in the opening that's advantage enough. In fact, I think Grandmaster Kaufman, his whole approach at the opening seems to be one of the goals is to try and get the bishop pair. So that might be the inspiration behind the early a3. I'm curious though to see how other players have approached this position. The most common is also the most logical, which is knight f3. In the master database, there have been 31 games in this position, and in the master database, 3 of them had a3 as the next move. And let's see who these players were. Okay, well, at least I know one of these people. Miguel Quinteros, who was one of the strongest Argentine players in his time. He was a friend of Fischer's too, back in the day. And that game was played in 1973 and ended in a draw. And Nasan, and Bleshkin. So yeah, most everybody else just plays the more natural looking knight of 3 and tries to transpose into a normal Catalan position. Okay, so let's escape that opening theory detour for now. But yeah, thanks for bringing up that question because I kind of glossed over that. So here and d5. And so black can be happy too because white isn't usually wanting to turn his king side into Swiss cheese this way. But he probably has to in order to keep his c pawn happy. I mean, I guess you could argue that this is possible, but the problem is it fails tactically because of that. So black has gotten something good for having his knight out on c6. And so knight f3, rook e8, and oh, coincidentally, black is ahead of development. So this is a very interesting battle of imbalances in that, okay, so white has the bishop pair, but black is ahead of development. Black's bishops right now do not give a good impression. With the one on c1 and the other one on f1, and then the king side already being weakened. So we'll see how this goes.
He does not want to develop.
Huh?
b4. I'm like,
Yes.
He does not want to develop.
No. Well, he is looking to develop. I think he wants to put his bishop on b2.
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, he wants to put his bishop on b2. You know, there might be an argument for playing b3 instead, but I suppose he doesn't want that knight escaping to a5. That said, yeah. And Torfi had an interesting question to answer as to how he's getting his bishop in. So he decides to fianchetto, and Jason opens up the center and tries to take advantage of the pin. So this is, in a way, this is kind of funny to me. It reminds me of the joke regarding the Tatakawa defense of the Queen's Gambit decline, which you play, Michael, which in some ways mirrors Tatakawa himself. So he was a pretty witty guy, and many of his sayings still exist in chess lore, like the person who makes the second to last mistake wins the game, etc. And all the mistakes are there waiting. He had a number of witty comments, mostly on the self-pejorative side. But the funny thing to me in this position, similar to the Tatakawa, is black spends time to fianchetto the bishop, apparently. And in many lines, especially with the early CD5s, he's found bringing his bishop to e6 instead, after preparing to fianchetto. And we have a situation like that here. And that's interesting. So bishop b5, bishop d7, bishop d3.
That is interesting. I don't know what he was worried about.
Yeah, well, maybe there's a tactic there that he's afraid of. Let's see.
I don't think so.
I don't see one. I don't see a tactic here at all that he would be. I mean, obviously you look out for any discoveries, but those are. I don't know that the solution to those discoveries would be returning to d3. Let's see what the further game shows. So bishop d3, bishop g4, bishop e2. And I think it's non-controversial to say that black has played better in this opening. Not that I'm saying he's winning or anything, but it's just his pieces are already making sense. The knight on c6 will find some work, but every other piece of black seems better than white's at the moment. And knight e4, queen f6, and I think it's pretty clear who has initiative in this position. Whoa, that move is actually so there's no way to escape. He's losing material by force, it seems like. Unless I'm missing something.
Yeah. I don't think you
No,
are.
he's losing material by force. Oh, I guess because he has to play. The only way to defend the knight. So if he plays knight back, then there's queen f2. And and if he plays queen here, now there's knight c3.
Yeah, and this is what happens when you play the opening so slowly and you don't develop.
Yes. Yeah, I mean the fact that the bishop. So usually when you play pawn takes pawn in these kind of positions, is to relieve the bishop of the job of defending the c4 pawn, open the position, yada yada yada. Bishop e5, bishop d7, bishop d3, bishop g4, bishop e2. So he took 3 moves to get to e2. This bishop did, and black took 2 moves to get to d7. So in effect, black is one move further ahead of development than he was before the bishop dance started. And now he just has a winning initiative after queen f6. This is crazy. I suppose the knight on c6 will be left hanging after bishop takes, queen takes f3 as the game went. But this attack is going to be pretty brutal. Threatening queen takes queen f2, and the only way to prevent it is there. At least he gets to only give up the exchange. So Torfi has won the exchange for a pawn. The question is, can he break through, and can he create further targets for his rooks? He already has a target on e3, and by playing b5, he's trying to keep the b4 pawn from moving, and overall fix white's pawns on the same color as the bishop, making the bishop even more miserable about its life. So seeing that he can't make further progress against the pawn, against the king side, he's going to try to invade on the queen side. In order to do that, he's bringing his rook back to challenge for the c-file. And rook c5 is a good attempt. In general, in these kind of positions, if the defender can, if the person who is exchanged down, if they can, they'd want to keep at least one rook on the board. But if they can't, at least get some sort of positional compensation, which Jason is trying to get by this rook c5. The idea being that at least he has a passed pawn. The passed pawn is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, but at least black needs to keep an eye on it, right? Can't just go happy-go-lucky. The only problem, though, is that black not the only problem, but a bigger problem is that white does not have an active plan. And
If I
it's
could back
just,
up, I had just stopped looking for a moment at the position, and then when I came back, I'm like, how is Black not completely winning this? When I left, he was just picking up the net on F3. But then I went through the game and I saw that the net on C6 was hanging, so it
yes.
wasn't so clear. But as I continued to look through the game, I want to go back to this point. What move is this? Move 20 for Black. Torfi played knight g4 plus. And then king g1 happened, and then queen e2, and this is where he went up the exchange, but it wasn't super clear. I think instead of knight g4, I think queen e2 is curtains. I don't know what white can do after queen e2. You're just threatening. It's the same idea. You're threatening knight g4 check, but this time if after queen e2 if Black tries to go knight g1, we just play queen h3, and now we actually win the rook, and we win the rook for free.
So if
and there's really
this
no good way to.
happens, for example, oh, the rook's hanging. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, and we just play, or we just play knight d3. Yeah. So I think this would have just been much better.
Curtains right away. Yeah. There's no. Yeah, so he plays here now. Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, this is still working, isn't it? Or not? And then here.
Yeah, king h1, queen takes. Yeah.
And c'est fini. Okay, yeah, that's actually a good point. That knight g4 was not the best way. Even going back here, I thought. I mean, I guess it ends up being the same thing, and maybe it's better not to activate white's pieces, because I was thinking of a possible intermezzo, or what do they call it? Desperado, knight takes b4 prior to taking on f3, or bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, and then knight d4. But then that would allow the bishop to come to life, and maybe that's not. So like here, and then knight d4, and then here and here. But then that gives this guy a bit more life after this, maybe. And also it prevents, now that the pawn's no longer there, this is not working. Although he does have knight here now, threatening checkmate, and threatening this pawn. But okay, there are a number of different things. But I think the way Torfi played was fine, but would have been even better if he had seen queen e2. Queen e2 is a good find, Michael. That's excellent. Because yeah, there's no escaping this time. So I guess if he plays bishop rook g1, maybe. Now, does he play?
Yeah, actually, I hadn't considered rook g1. Rook g1 is interesting. I looked at a lot of different moves, but rook g1 was probably the only move I didn't see.
Well, it's still problematic. I mean, he still has to figure out what's going on
I think
here.
this is still more interesting than the game.
Yeah. But it puts white under more immediate pressure, I think, playing with this queen e2 instead of the game continuation. But okay, the game continuation. At the end of the day, you want to win. Style points are nice, but style points don't get you extra points on the scoreboard. So, and I think we might end up with an instructive endgame out of this, which, okay, I'm a bit partial to endgame play. So, here, okay, so Torfi accomplished a couple of things in the last couple of moves. He's kept the dangerous criminal on c5 under lock and key. With a5, he's opened another line for his rook, so his rook can hopefully infiltrate further away from the white king. The problem, of course, is that it's still not easy to find good targets. Well, it wasn't until this move, and now all of a sudden, that's the other thing I forgot to mention with Torfi's a5 maneuver, is that by playing this, he's opened up a line for on the a file, which I did mention, but it's also created an extra target. And so now white has to worry about b4, e3, g3 in terms of his pawns, and he has to think about how he's going to get his bishop to help defend. I can't believe this. Jason must have been on something. Are these clocks correct?
I would assume so.
Oh wow. Yeah, this seems like it's pretty fast for it's a pretty fast play. Oh wow. Anyway, the good thing is, and I'm assuming that Torfi calculated this out, because the bishop is pinned against the king, he doesn't have the time to help in defense of the b pawn immediately, and maybe Jason has to consider e4 just as a way to get his king out and get his king able to stroll over. Or I guess he could play king e2 and king d3. Maybe that's a little less. That actually might be a bit safer. I'm playing it that way.
Yeah, but
just so
right
he
here
can
is
get
Black's
his.
move.
Huh? Yes. It is Black's move here.
Oh, do you mean
is,
a move or two ago?
Yeah, if he had a chance to, so like he goes here, here, and here. If he had seen the a5 idea coming forward, maybe he doesn't play this way. But it seems as if Torfi had calculated it well. There's no way for Jason to avoid all this, because if he had the time, then he might be considering e4 and that sort of thing. But because it's Torfi's move, white has no way of defending his b4 pawn. It's just sad for him. And so after this, and g6, it's like now I think the result is no longer really in doubt. And as the old books would say, it's a matter of technique. Torfi decides to play it safe and go over to the king side, understanding that his rook can keep white c pawn under control. And now all he has to do is push the pawn, although, okay, maybe white might have an e4 idea, which he plays. The problem is that black's pieces are so well placed and centralized that the counterattack in the center isn't really causing black any trouble. And so after b3, it becomes obvious that there's no way to prevent the promotion. And so, or at least if he's going to prevent the promotion, it'll come at a great cost. So Jason resigns. Let's see, who do we have next? Evan Patchen versus Eric Galan. So we have a Sicilian, Kaimanov, Bishop e2. There's a number of different moves here. I actually stumbled into Bishop e2 in a blitz game somewhere. knight f3, f4 might be a bit more active. Bishop e3 might be a bit more active. Knight f3 doesn't look bad. Now knight e1, that I'm not so sure about this early. I'm not a connoisseur of the Sicilian, so on either side of the board, but it just seems like all this knight jumping this early in the game can't be to white's benefit. And already black is looking very comfortable. His king doesn't have to rush to castle in these kind of positions because, well, white hasn't really done anything threatening, and black's king is not really in danger in the center at the moment anyway. So f3, which was important because of the attack on e4. But that also introduces more weaknesses in white's position on the dark squares. So Eric plays knight c4, inducing white to play to exchange off his light square bishop, which, okay, strategically makes sense because the light square bishop in these positions often isn't the greatest. But that said, the white square bishop isn't useless, and now it seems to me black has everything he'd want in these sort of Sicilian positions. Huh. Okay. Right on time. So black has eaten the pawn and is about to digest it. And now induces an exchange of pieces. Ah, that's actually pretty clever. Could be clever. We'll see how this turns out. So he's offering an exchange of pawns. Ah, so if rook takes a4 to try and get his pawn back, then I suppose there's rook here.
Yeah. And like queen
But is there
e7
queen
and
c5?
and now we take on d3, right?
Oh yeah. So queen e7.
I feel like queen takes d3, and even if we exchange pieces, like queen e3 check, and I don't know, it feels like black's a bit more active. If that move though, do we? Yeah, that or maybe knight e5.
Yeah, this might be complicating things too much, probably.
Yeah, it looks like it could be a draw.
Yeah. So oh, maybe queen d3, you said, right?
Yeah.
7. And This position,
I think there's a lot of merit to just the move you were, I think, going to play, Rook ABA. And this has to
mhm.
be winning for black. It just has to be. And then check. And then we're bringing the rook in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this seems like it would be very painful for white. Okay, so let's see. So this goes like so, and okay. So now Eric seems to be getting the better of this now, but Evan isn't giving up without a fight. Ah, tactics always take precedence over strategy. Oh, let's see who wins this. Let's see who wins this dance.
both sides of back rank issues.
Yes. So black takes the opportunity to sort out his back rank, and I think tacitly reminds white that he's going to be a pawn up in a queen and pawn ending, which would give him all the chances.
Maybe it doesn't matter, but I think H3 might be unnecessary. Maybe just King G1, because you can always exchange off the rooks when you want to, and the endgame is going to come down to black having the extra pawn, and you might as well get your king closer to that pawn. So maybe
Yeah,
this would have been better.
yeah. I think H3 was probably not as good as bringing the king back into the center. Although, okay, there's the king coming back in the center also could have some danger in terms of it being exposed to checks that the queen could use to forward their a pawn. It's neither here nor there. It's hard to calculate it all in real time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think King G1 in general would be the better move.
He's trying.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what if he takes on E6 here? Oh, he doesn't want to give up the H pawn.
H5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Although
understandable.
from the point of view of counterplay, it would seem that might not be a bad approach. So if queen takes king up, let's see, maybe we go.
I just don't feel like we can ever force the perpetual anymore. And now blacks will slowly push their a pawn.
Yeah, I suppose you have a point.
I'm curious to see how Eric won this.
G4 might have been a step in the wrong direction. Although white would have to, black would have to calculate
Oh, what?
this sequence. Yeah, that's the problem, is that after G4 happens, which I think Evan is operating on the assumption that the black queen can't move away because of the perpetual threat. Unfortunately, it so weakens his position that he can't. Well, actually, no. Let's look. We plays king here.
Yeah, why aren't we playing King G2? Is this a DGT error? This is just a draw, no?
Yeah, this looks like a draw. So yeah, what happened? What happened here? Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
What are we missing?
I don't think anything.
Oh, you know what we're missing? Look at the clocks.
Yes, yeah, he's low on time. That's understandable, but it's not a difficult move. In fact, it's the most obvious move,
Yeah,
which
it
I
is the
can
most
point
obvious
right off
move
the bat.
to. So I don't know why he missed it because after missing it, or maybe he thought he was being clever because after Queen takes F3, Queen G6 is draw.
Maybe,
Yes. That could be
but
it.
no need to be clever when you or you're always threatening Queen G6 anyways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He probably thought that he could afford to give up the pawn because Queen G6 is is draw, but with his low time, didn't realize that Black could win the pawn with tempo and therefore be able to prevent the draw.
Yeah, and the main key is not that he wins the F3 pawn, but that he wins the E4 pawn and prevents Queen G6. Yeah, now it's over.
Exactly. Yeah, now it's just over. All right. Well, that was a good win by Eric. Um, for Evan, yeah, I think he had a draw there. Just protect the G pawn, protect the F pawn, and which
He did a good
actually,
job fighting. He did a good
yeah,
job
because I think,
fighting back after he lost the
yeah,
pawn, though. Yeah.
very much so. Excuse me. I think, and actually, the way the game went proved your judgment was correct in not, well, your judgment and Evan's judgment was correct in not taking the E6 pawn. Um, by keeping the H5 pawn on the board, it provided these drawing chances. If only Evan hadn't dropped the F3 pawn, things would have ended up. Because I think he's the rating underdog, right, in this matchup.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's see. What do we have next? We have Brendan Foote versus Nanika Tutika. And see what happened there. So we have a line, another Catalan type line. And White seems to have gotten the better of it a bit anyway. His pieces are developed relatively harmoniously, and he's actually almost threatening to win a pawn, but needs an extra move, which he finds in E3. And so this is a maneuver that's not uncommon in these D4, D5 openings. 94, arranging for some exchanges. Ruh-roh. The knight has no safe squares. And so H5 wins the knight. Now, it's not winning it for free because Black's king side gets ruined, but I think Black has enough time to shore up his weak points over there so that
Yeah.
White won't have enough compensation.
So now white still has 2 pawns for the piece.
Yeah. That's 2
Wait,
pawns
no,
for the
3 pawns.
piece.
Whoa. White has
Huh?
all 8 pawns.
Yeah. Yes.
Move 23, and white still has all 8 pawns. That's funny. It's very funny.
It is kind of funny, yes. No, it's
Considering that white's missing 3 of their minor pieces, and black's missing 3 pawns, and yet none of white's pawns got taken, it's kind of a little bit of an oddity.
yes. Not the most common constellation of material. Um yeah, this is interesting. And oh wow. Okay. Danica has an idea, so they're trying to play bishop takes h3, which by the way would cover the mate threat or check threat. I guess it's not even a mate threat. But then underestimates g4, I guess.
Yeah, I don't even think you
What's,
need to play g4 though. I think we can still just take on e5, and if bishop takes h3, then we're taking on f6.
yeah. Yeah, e6 seems like it might be. It's difficult though. You have to really, as black in these kind of positions, you have to be extra patient in uncoiling, because if the position opens up, you're to white. If white's pawns can make themselves more effective than black's extra piece, then he's actually got the better of the exchange, and that's what seems like it's happening here. G4 seems risky, but it might be a way to grab the initiative back. And actually, yeah.
So sorry, my laughing interrupted you, but
Uh,
just to show how tuned out I am, in this position that we're currently looking at, I'm like,
mhm.
I wonder if black can castle, and then maybe that'll help let the bishop out. And then I scrolled back through the game, and I found out that both the rook and the king had already moved, but now they've moved back to their starting square.
Yes.
This is some game.
So there was a game I played 2, 3 years ago against really strong player, uh, originally from New York. He went to school in St. Louis, Justice Williams, and I think there was a movie done about his school back in the day. Anyway, so I'm playing black against him, and we're in this weird French position, and um, at some point I'd arranged for an exchange on a6 or a7, so my rook had to recapture, and then I brought my rook back to a8, right? And my king was still in the center, or the rook was still in h8, and I saw the sequence that he was trying to do, start an attack, and I figured, you know what? I'm going to let him push forward with that attack, and then at the last moment, I'm going to castle queenside, and then he just has weaknesses all over, right? So I think about this idea, make my move, and then go for a bathroom break. On the way back from the bathroom, it suddenly dawns on me, idiot, you moved that rook, you can't castle. So my king is stuck in the center, and here I am trying to stop a tsunami with my bare hands. he just killed me. It was ugly. Yeah. So I get it.
It's
They've done
tough.
that. So this is how Brandon got back into the game. I mean, not that the position is winning at this moment, but the fact that he's able to open up the position to get his pieces working is really important, and ends up causing problems for black. Um, Now, I don't know what happened
Now,
at this point.
I wonder if f4 instead of taking on f6 on move 27, I think f4 also looks quite good. Because even though you're
Yes.
giving up a pawn, you're just activating the rook. So even
You're not
after
giving up a
king e3
pawn.
check.
After f4, you're not giving up that pawn, though. Because you can't take the
Oh,
pawn.
you're right. e6.
Yeah.
Oh
f4
yeah.
actually would have been. Actually, f4 probably would have been curtains.
It's an avalanche.
Yeah. Funny. I was just talking about this tsunami I was trying to control with my bare hands, and here Black would have to do the same thing. Because those pawns would be really deadly. But yeah, I don't know why it ended at this point. Why is there? I
Yeah,
mean, this is
I have someone in chat saying, in this game, Black resigned while in a slightly better position, but I suppose it was hard to find a way to entangle. So apparently, someone on the ground there noticed this as well, and yeah, it's very, very odd.
very odd. I mean, this is probably the best position Black has had in a few moves.
Yeah, yeah.
So to resign here seems kind of weird. I mean, okay, f4 is coming right now. If it were White's move, but Black can play, say, knight g6, and then sink the knight into f4. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
actually, yeah,
and maybe they're worried about stuff like rook d3 and rook f3, but considering White just played c5, I think it kind of shows that White doesn't understand what's most important in this position, which is the fact that Black has, instead of pawns supporting their king, they have all of their pieces huddled around their king, kind of like a
yes,
fort. And
yes.
that's not usually what you want in chess, especially when all the major pieces are on the board. So I think he was worried about that rook d3, rook f3, but considering White didn't play it right away, and it's not necessarily curtains because you can move the king away, I think it was definitely a bit premature to resign.
Yeah, I agree. Way too early to resign here. Okay, well, hopefully, if they review the game, they'll find that they resigned too early and see ways to continue the fight. So now we have Jules Billmeyer versus Srijan Vaidyanathan, and it starts off as a Jabava London. Yeah, interesting interpretation. Now, my experience with Jules' games the last several weeks have suggested that she's usually well prepared in the opening. Now, I don't know about this right here because it seems like White's going to have a really awful position after these exchanges. So that Black has the bishop pair and the better pawn position. Yes, development's a bit behind, but in the end, White's weaknesses might be telling. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the game. An interesting reshuffling of the pieces there. Well, there goes the discussion of the bishop pair. But that said, Black's position is still for choice. For example, they could castle kingside if they wanted to, although at the moment there's no rush to castle. I mean, the only reason to get castled or move the king anyway, is so that the other rook can join in the attack against the opponent's king. So white does the correct thing, trying to open up the center before the black king can escape. Unfortunately, it is doomed to. Hold on a second. Maybe Jules needs to play here. Oh, but then even after something like this isn't really win. Oh, this could be winning, or at least problematic for black. So maybe he has to consider playing
the queen.
Yeah, he has to consider playing take with the queen. And now there's maybe even queen g5, trying to prepare bishop h3.
Yeah, I kind of like this.
Queen g6. Yeah, it seems like it's potentially working. Bishop h3. I don't know. It seems as if it might be because I think she forgot that, or didn't calculate that Srijan could play pawn takes pawn, and now it's not clear how you regain that pawn.
Yeah.
It's making it interesting, though.
Yeah, she's doing the right thing and being aggressive.
Yes, she is making it interesting here. And Srijan, for their part, is also keeping things interesting with that knight g8. It just looks like an unnormal, like a atypical move. But after knight g3, that bishop attacking the g3 square might suddenly become MVP. Oh no! Am I missing something? So after here, how do you protect this guy? Oh, there's queen e3. My bad. Queen e3 check, and then maybe f4. Maybe even there might even be another check there. Let's see. What takes? Yeah. So maybe queen e3 might be the way to go. So okay, maybe h6 isn't winning just yet. So queen c7 to doubly attack the knight on g3. Rook check, king f8. Knight takes. Oh,
It just loses though.
Yeah, knight takes just loses. I don't see.
It's a move I wanted to play at some point. It just never quite worked.
In fact, oh yeah, Sirjan found it. Bishop f4. You don't even have to take the knight. This is the second time we're seeing this theme of queen and king on the c1 to h6 diagonal. I think.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is never castle king queenside. No, okay. Obviously, it's not not that simple, but yeah, this is going to be a harsh end to the game. Unfortunately for Jules, everything. It's like those clearance sale commercials. Everything must go. Is what's happening to her position right here. Check. Oh, That's a bit generous. Okay, it still leads to a losing position. And at the end of the day, your job is to win, not necessarily to hoard all the material you can. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think her problem came from the opening. Something about this opening just had a bad smell to it. I don't know if she was mixing up plans here. Like with c5 a6, I don't know if the f3 h4 plan is the way. I think dc5 let me take a look at the database here. It's queen d2, knight f3, and dc5. And dc5 has the most. dc5 has the most attention given to it. Knight c6. Knight f3. e6. Knight a4. Oh, and the idea, I suppose, is that if so white is giving up. White can't hold on to the pawn, although they're trying. If black were to try queen c5, then I suppose that would be bad because of this. The queen's, oops, sorry. The queen's defending the knight, and if bishop c5, maybe this is working. Not so clear. I guess there could be knight takes, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes. So maybe that's not even working to white's advantage there. I suppose it could try king here, but then queen here.
Or even just bishop d7.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So queen a5 is probably playable, although it's not been seen in master games. Typically after this, the most popular move has been bishop c5. And we have some heavy hitters here on the white side, including the Frenchman with 3 names, Vachier-Lagrave, MVL. And he won this position against Hikaru Nakamura back in 18. We also have a sighting of Yasipenko, Andre, who is strong, I believe from Ukraine, Shengelia, a lot of strong players on the white side here. So yeah, I think it seems like the f3 plan works best when there's a bishop to play against on f5. So like the way I usually play with the bishop f5 thing at some point, like c6, e3, bishop f5, and f3. Now with bishop f5, the f3, g4 ideas make more sense because you have a target they're going to get in tempo on and potentially steal that bishop if black isn't careful. But with the c5, a6, I think dc5 or knight f3, they both make a bit more sense because the way the game went, especially with this g4, I think maybe playing g4 before h4 might be another improvement, just to keep the knight from um, getting to h5. If you're going to play a pawn at that point, and then after knight back, I think she just underestimated the sequence of exchanges after this, because after cd4, it's just black for choice. Then again, she still found fighting moves which were good and kept pressure, even after losing the pawn f5. But all right, now I think I'm just rambling. So let me go to we have a game we haven't looked at all between Nate Hoover and Robert Donahue. So
yeah, and what's really good to see is I noticed that wait a second, this isn't normal. This is this is the ninth board. We don't have a ninth board, so it looks like either we got a couple extra DGT boards or Nate is just somehow manually uploading more games. So that's really nice to see because usually we just have the 8 games.
yes, I think it's manually because I don't see clock times.
Yeah, probably that's the case then.
Yeah. Well, they actually have a normal position by move 3.
New Bear would be really happy.
Yes. Wow, this is super normal. Move 7 and okay. I knew there had to be an escape from normalcy at some point. This is not the most normal move. Now, I don't know if he's trying to go for the I don't even know if it works here. The infamous fishing pole attack. Um, where black plays bishop g4. I think I played a similar idea many years ago as white at a d4 opening where bishop goes to g4 g5, and then when h6 is played, if you've already castled king center, then you play h4, and they can't comfortably take the sacrificed piece because then your queen zooms in and your rook's already on the h file. So in this position, it would be like after this you respond with h5. It's not working. I don't know if it's working in this position. I know that in one of the lines of the Ruy Lopez exchange with the early bishop takes c6, something like this can come up and is sound in that situation. I'm not sure it's working here, but in any case, that's not what Robert had in mind. He decides to retreat with his bishop. No, by the way, well, you play e4, so you probably do you play the Spanish opening at all, or are you usually a bishop c4 guy?
Yeah, I play the Spanish e4, e5, knight, 3, knight, 6, which 4. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, normally, as you know, the most normal move in this position for black would be 0-0. I think actually, just for kicks, let me see what the proportions are. So in the Lichess Master database, there are 26,495 games played in this position, and bishop g4 is played in 84 games, which um, is a percentage too low for them to round beyond 0%. So, but okay, it's been played, and actually, yeah, white does pretty well. 52% better than so the normal most of them was 0-0 here. Anyway, okay, that's a bit of a detour. So let's see what happens. So rook e3, queen e1. This is some strange crab-like chess. So isn't it dropping a pawn?
Looks like it, yes. Huh.
Is he claiming
Sounds like Nate.
compensation somehow? Yeah,
Or does he have that? Wait, no, but then you just play knight 95.
yeah. In fact, you
You're
can play
taking
knight takes pawn. Sorry, knight takes bishop and then 95.
Oh, but then we have rook G3. Wait, but then
Ah,
bishop H4. Oh, bishop H4. This is weird, yeah.
oh, knight
Oh,
plays.
okay.
So now black just has. Yeah, I don't see any compensation for white now.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. Oh, it's weird.
Wow, Robert's just playing some very sound normal chess and cleaning up.
So, sometimes, yeah, something's not right about this game. Something's very, very wrong.
Yes, the game.
Like, I've Nate never plays like that, and Robert never plays like that. So
I'm wondering.
I don't know what to make of the game.
Yeah. No, so I should mention sometimes when we're doing the broadcast, I'll notice that when they're inputting games, they'll sometimes have the wrong moves in a game, and then I guess they'll correct it by Monday or whatever. I don't know whether that's what's happening here because this doesn't seem like either player. But I mean, I've seen Robert play normal chess, so this is something that's very much within his. What is less recognizable is Nathan's play because I don't know
Yeah.
him dropping the pawn. Although if he was playing a simul, then that might make sense, where he didn't notice the threat. Let's see. Have we covered all the games, or are we still? Oh, Maxwell.
Technically we have. I think I went through all the games, and it looked like there were two more that technically were uploaded, but they're not on the
Okay.
DDP boards.
All right. Oh yeah, there's a couple of different versions of Jordan versus Noah. Oh no. Okay. So some of those might be garbage games. All right.
I guess there's maybe
All right.
just one more. Yeah, because I also see there was I think Daryl versus Norm that also got uploaded.
Okay.
Um,
But no results on that one.
Norman. Actually, Norm ended up winning that. You just have to scroll down a bit.
Oh, here. Okay, got it. 24. No, this game. This is the game Eddie won.
Actually, it's number 19. There's a lot of different numbers in there, but
Oh,
so
okay.
if you go to number 19,
19. Oh, Norman beat Daryl. Let's see what happened. Let's see what
yeah,
happened there.
we can quickly go through this one as our last game.
Okay. So this is definitely a Norman game. We're going into a stonewall position, which is his forte. Oh man,
Hopefully,
this is
space
going to be,
advantage.
yeah, a space advantage and a piece advantage, a material advantage as well, in terms of functional material, because um, all of these guys can attack him, and none of these guys are able to defend over there. So if Norman can get his f5 pawn moving, he now opens up everything. Interesting. Oh,
I don't know why he didn't take the piece right away, but
yeah, I'm thinking he should have just taken the piece here. And if this, then here, and if here, then here. And the knight gets out alive. Bishop e3 happens next, or bishop d2. And yeah, say here, bishop d2. And there's nothing going on for black here. So maybe he miscalculated.
yeah, it must have been.
With g3, thinking that he'd have the extra tempo because the queen would still be hanging, but didn't see the queen could withdraw to defend the bishop. Oh,
Now they're somewhat in the game. I'm still
yeah.
scared of the past e. I'm still scared of the past e pawn, but
I'm wondering if white had time for this first, at least get something for all their hard work, and then go back to c6
yeah,
to d6.
I think so.
Oh, Daryl dropped a pawn. That's what happened. Queen e7 instead of queen d7. In fact, there's no reason to move the queen, but I mean, there's no need to move the queen, but queen d7 might have been what he intended to play, and then queen e7 happened instead, and so he loses at least a pawn, maybe two. Norman's playing very cautiously. I'd be hard pressed not to go. But okay, I get it because he doesn't want to deal with queen f7 and pressure down the f file. So his approach is actually proof of respect for discretion being the better part of valor.
And these connected pass pawns should eventually win the game for Norman.
Yeah. Oh, and then he's adding a few more pawns to his kitty.
Yeah.
All right, that was a nice finish. Okay, I think we're done with the games.
Yeah, it was an interesting slate. We had a lot of games with queenside castling for white, which was rather interesting.
Yes.
And two times it didn't work out so well because as Chris pointed out in chat, usually when you queenside castle, you don't want to play king d1, and white didn't in multiple games, and they got burned with the bishop skewer tactic with the queen. So
Yep.
A bit unfortunate. But to wrap up here, I'll just a shout out to our sponsors once again. They're thechessgoals.com. You can use the coupon code CASTLE to save 30% on any of the chess opening courses there. So check that out and use that code. And then our other sponsorship is Webeccentric. They're empowering small businesses and startups through tailored digital solutions. Webeccentric specializes in custom web development, cloud solutions, and digital strategy for small businesses. With over 25 years of experience, Webeccentric brings enterprise-level expertise to businesses of all sizes. We're here to help. Reach us at webeccentric.com and shop with us at shop.webeccentric.com. So check out both the Webeccentric platform, which is Johnny's, and also the shop.webeccentric, where you can get some different merch pieces, and which is kind of cool.
Cool.
But yeah. Oh, and then one thing I guess I should also mention is we will not be streaming next week on account of Thanksgiving. So I know that the faithful party players of the castle will still be playing on Wednesday night, but me and OK and we'll be having an off week.
Yes.
So we will.
Oh, and I should ask, will the game still be broadcast on the DGT website so people can still access it that way?
I would assume so. Yeah, I'm guessing Nate will still upload those, which would be great.
Cool. All right.
Yeah,
well, I guess since we won't see you
back,
before then, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you all in. It's not December. What is that? I know. I guess that is December.
Yes.
Next Thursday is the 27th, and the following Thursday. So I guess the following Thursday we'll have to announce the winners for the November Thursday nighter. So we'll just have a bit more to catch up on in December. But thanks for watching, everyone, and for me and OK, we'll see you in December.
All right. Bye, guys.